Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Full Course Yellow. If you're coming to us directly from Channel 31 in Melbourne, and another edition of In Pit Lane, welcome to the program. This is the In Pit Lane after show, after party, we call it, just to get together every Thursday night at 9:30, straight after the show on Channel 31, where we just get together and talk about the week in motorsport and catch up with any news that might have broken since we put the show to bed on Tuesday. Joining us once again, we've got let's have a look who we've got on the panel with us today. We've got Stuart Fairweather is joining us once again, coming to us from somewhere called Snarktopia, where I believe that they're in the middle of a storm at the moment. Welcome again to Peter Johnson, our floor manager on In Pit Lane, my offsider in the studio, Craig Doc Gladigo, and Excel Racer extraordinaire, Richard Outram. G'day, guys. How are you all?
Good evening, Brett.
Good evening.
Good evening, gentlemen. And hello to all our viewers and listeners out there.
Yes. Hello to everybody. We'll bring up some. We've got some of the regulars in. Box. G'day, Box. How are you? I hope we're all well. I think we're all well. When I say we're all well, unfortunately we're not all well. As if you've been watching over the last couple of weeks, you know that Chris Ritchie had the dreaded lurgy, and unfortunately he has still got it, and he's feeling pretty crook at the moment. So all the best to Chris. If you're watching, Chris, I hope that you're feeling a lot. You get better sooner rather than later. It looks like. Last week it looked like you were sort of on the improve, but unfortunately it seems to have come back. And I've heard that from a few people who have had this thing that they say, no, I'm getting over it now, and then suddenly it comes back for a...
Without going to final detail, he was double vaxxed, so he's over the worst of it. He's just getting some, getting a little bit of a relapse, but he's double jabbed. He'll come good. So out there, do the right thing, and for yourself, your family, your friends, and loved ones, and we'll all get better quickly.
That's it, and we got Tony. Thundery evening all. Yes, as I said, out Stuart's way. It is a very. There you can see the Stuart's brought up the. Stuart has brought up the picture there, the local radar, and you can see that wall of colour that is.
Pun intended. It's a day of thunder.
Now.
Day of thunder.
That's it. Well, coming up, historic Sandown. They call that the Day of Thunder, and that's an early promotion for historic Sandown. Mad Cow Mark joining us once again. G'day, Mark. Good to see you.
MCM.
Yep, David Howard also. Good evening, fellow motorsport fans. Giuseppe LaFace is say hi. Go, Giuseppe.
Just got a quick shout out to Giuseppe. He sent me a message though, and I haven't got back to him, so I will have a look later. Sorry, mate. I'll get around to it. And
Andrew S is joining us as well and says, good evening, gents. Well, let's find out what's happening the weekend. Formula One returned on the weekend to the circuit of the Americas, and everybody sort of survived the bumps, although I believe that Max Verstappen was complaining that he's pretty sore and sorry after it all, but it didn't seem to affect his speed because he had a great race on the weekend and won. And the main talking point is not so much. I mean, the race was good and not a lot of on track passing, but an interesting strategic battle between Verstappen and the Red Bulls and the guys at Mercedes once again. But the main thing people are talking about is the crowd. 400,000 people claimed over that was over 4 days actually. It's a bit like the Albert Park meeting at the Australian Grand Prix, that it is in fact over 4 days, not the 3 days that most of the European and other races are. So, but still, really good crowds, especially considering the current circumstances. Although in Texas they seem to have pretty much ignored all that stuff. But anyway, good crowd. Pete, Formula One, the Holy Grail has been sort of finding acceptance in America. Do you think have they finally made it?
I think they have. I think Drive to Survive has got a lot to do with that. And of course, they're getting Miami next year. And there's talk that in the near future there's going to be another one in Las Vegas. So I think they have, and I think like I say, Netflix and Drive to Survive has got a lot to do with it. And the fans remind me very much of Australian fans. They're very, relaxed, and
it's certainly that sort of atmosphere. It must be because like if you talk to if you have a chat to Daniel Ricciardo. Daniel loves the place. I mean, and that showed. I mean, it was another good performance by Daniel, and he had his elbows out as well. Someone, like I think it was Carlos Sainz was saying, accused him of, driving dirty, and I was really pleased to say that, Daniel went, look, I'm normally a nice guy, but perhaps I need to get my elbows out a bit more and. Drive a bit dirty occasionally, and I thought that's a good sign that Daniel's saying, I'm not going to be an easy beat. You want to get past me, you're going to have to bloody well earn it.
I'll just want to say I agree with Peter with the exception of the political views. They're crazy over there. Sorry, we're all not Trump followers like in Texas over there. Yes, very relaxed and laid back and love our motorsport and stuff like that. Everything like Texans are, except not politically. We'll leave it.
Yeah, well, I think that yes, but
we're not extremists like they are.
Well, they certainly turned up in force, including the celebrities. My poor Martin Brundle. Has anybody? Be honest, anybody on this panel? I mean, there's the five of us here this week. Anybody at all on this panel heard of Megan Thee Stallion?
Yeah, I saw it. Yeah,
and I'm ashamed to say it.
I've heard of her more times than I've heard enough of this person in the last week to last a lifetime, I think.
That's too much already.
First time I'd ever seen her.
Yes, although to her credit, she did answer the question. It was the minder who basically got into Martin's face and said, no, you can't do that. And as he pointed out, well, yes, I can, and I did, But I think they need to be clued up a bit, all these celebrities, and say, hey, listen, if you're going to go down on the grid, that we'd love to have you, but we're letting you down on the grid basically because we want the publicity and the so-called glamour that you bring, and you've got a responsibility to do the right thing, and part of that is there will be at least for the English language, the major English language coverage, which is the Sky coverage, the Sky F1 coverage that Martin's a part of, that he'll be out and about and he'll be talking to people. So if a strange short Englishman comes up to you and says hello, you'd probably want to show a bit of respect and say hello back.
Yeah, play ball and get with the flow because. As you said, you're a guest, and they don't have to let you on the grid at all. They don't have to let Tom Thumb out there, but they do. So if you want to be part of it, you got to play ball.
Yeah, I've certainly never heard of it. Yeah, Mad Cow Marks, I never heard of her until early Sunday. Well done, yes. Sunday.
We probably never heard of her again after a week.
Megan Thee Stallion F1 is already trending as F1 as a YouTube search term, so obviously it's pretty bad. I missed that part of the coverage.
Oh, there'll be TikTok videos about it soon.
Well, so I didn't watch it live. I mean, because of the thing. It's not a bad time though, because I mean, you basically get up straight in the morning and it's only just finished. As soon as I got up, I didn't look at any social media. I didn't turn the computer. I just went straight out. I turned the television on, went on to KO and watched the replay of it before I knew any. So I watched it sort of as live. So I missed out on all that nonsense. Anybody here watch it live? Pete, did you watch it live?
I watched it live, but I didn't get up for the pre-race. I got up sort of about 10 to 6. So
yeah. So it wasn't that bad. I mean, especially races on the. Because it's in the sort of the central part of America, so it's not as bad as Miami is going to be. But races on the West Coast are actually in a pretty good time zone for Australia. I mean, it's early in the morning, but it is doable. And if we have that race in Nevada in Las Vegas that they're talking about, it'll come into here at about 7 o'clock in the morning. So on basically Monday morning. So that'll be But whether that happens or not, but they're very keen apparently after the success of that race, and apparently Miami's was sold out. They put the first set of tickets on sale, and
excellent.
Yeah, they sold out. The first allocation supposedly sold out. So
is that for the 4 days, or for just say Thursday, Friday, or is it just?
I don't know. They just said that there was. I think it was for
spread.
The 4 days.
A good spread.
Pete?
Yep.
I don't know. I don't know if it's 4 days or 3 days.
Yeah, whatever it's for. I mean, it seems to be successful, and you could imagine. I mean, they've got a very strong sort of Latin American, just as they do in Texas. They've got a lot of Mexicans, in Texas, a lot of Mexican culture down there, and a lot of people coming over the border for the race. So there's a lot of people coming in there.
Here's one for the rest of my counterparts around the room. Usually when I mention this, our director extraordinaire above me usually brings up a graphic, so I'll put that in his yardstick. It's been a long time. What's the Miami track like? What's its capacity as well too? So we can.
Well, the interesting thing is Michael Massey has gone over to have a look at it. So's Lando Norris. They both went straight after the race. They went on the Monday to have a look and have a walk around the proposed track. Michael Massey is saying that he says it's not a Mickey Mouse track. He says this is a real racing circuit, and he believes it will provide for some very good racing. So I mean, how many
DRS zones? Two? Has it got two decent straights?
I don't think they've discussed that at this stage.
Yeah, because usually you've got to have a decent amount of kilometres, and you've got to have two decent straights and a detection zone for your DRS. So sometimes that can be restricted if you haven't got the racetrack dimension to be able to use it for. That's all. So, but as you said, yeah, it makes a good racing. But if they've gone across to have a look at it and they've said it's not a Mickey Mouse, there's obviously been there. Oh, there you go. Thank you. Beautifully done as usual, Stuart. Much appreciated. That's got some great central viewing areas, hasn't it?
Well, it's around. That's a sport. That's the sporting venue. I think it's what is a soccer field or something. But it's anyway some sort of sports.
It would be US, what they call football in the US.
Of course.
NFL, which of course is not played with a round ball and is not really played with your feet.
No, that's it. But whatever it is, it's
And
I must admit, I actually watched some NFL. I flicked across and there was a match between Philadelphia and I forget the other two, but it was a very tight match, and it was I eventually ended up watching it. I mean, it's one of those things with American football is you've really got to understand and realise that it has absolutely no connection with any sort of football we know. It's got just think of it. Don't think of it as football. Think of it as a totally different sport in and of itself, and understand how it progresses. It's a very smart and it's actually a very cerebral game. I mean, despite all of the big bullheads crashing into each other, it's a very smart game.
With all that padding, you could call it the ladies' version of rugby.
Love it.
But let's face it, Australian women's rugby, they're tougher than the NFL players.
Boom. And just on that note, remember there's a couple of AFL players each year a few each year, and the two of them are in the news in the last couple of weeks, and they've got themselves lovely little contracts, whether it be college or endorsed or whatever it may be, and they're on some millions of dollars to just be the kickers, the punters, which is, I think there's two of them that are over there in the big league this year. Then one of them's a newbie, and the other one was, I saw it in the breaking news in this week, was Tom Brady. If he didn't have elite godlike status already, he has upgraded another level, because I think there was some momentous game he was part of. It might have been his 100th, I don't know, whatever it may be, something crazy. The ball went into the crowd, and I think the usual understanding is if the ball goes into the crowd, you get to keep the ball over there or whatever it is.
Yep.
He went to the crowd and asked the fan if he could possibly have the ball, because he wanted to keep it for his collection as a memento. It was special to him. And he went, it raised hell and high water to give him this person a whole memorabilia instead and replacements, etc. But one more little thing he gave that person or was a Bitcoin, which is equivalent to 86,000 Australian dollars at the current time. So yeah, gave him a little piece of Bitcoin as well too. One whole Bitcoin.
Just a note on that Miami.
Would he put it in his pocket?
Was from a couple of years ago, and it looks like it's up to its third or its fourth different layout. So they keep changing it. Yeah.
It's been knocked back on a number of, because the council have knocked it back on a number of occasions, and it's only in the last 12 months that after a number of changes that they've made to it. There is still a lot of protests in the local area. If you listen to Midweek Motorsport, our friends from Radio Le Mans, Shay Adam, who originally was, I think she's moved now, but Shay used to live in Florida and knows the area and Miami really well, and she was sort of giving updates quite regularly, and she was sort of saying, no, it's not going to happen on that.
Well, have a look at the original design, and it's a rather unfortunate shape when you think about it.
I don't think the blue. I don't think blue's ocean though. That's better.
This is a more recent one, apparently, for the shape of it. But
the version I saw before this one, I did think was Mickey Mouse, but this is a lot better.
Do you think Mickey Mouse drew it?
Possibly. It's in Florida.
Yeah. I'll Walt. Just while we're talking, we're still F1. Did you see Max Verstappen is the most popular man in F1 now?
Yes, that was. Well, I'm not surprised because the Dutch fans are just so intensely. They're just so over the top, and they're like that with everything. I remember looking back because I think I said about a week or two ago, I found the old show, the episode of In Pit Lane we did from Le Mans. And I mentioned that because I was on the start line there, and I pointed out, I took some photos. We weren't allowed to film any video, but I took some still photos on the grid and one of the photos I took was I walked up to the grandstand and and it was just a sea of orange because of Jan Lammers and his Racing for Holland team. Just they were just everywhere. They had the flares going, the orange flares going, and they are absolutely mad keen for the sport and mad keen for their races. And I imagine Max is far and away the biggest sporting star in the Netherlands at the moment. So the interesting thing was, Hamilton didn't finish second. He wasn't runner-up. It was Lando Norris. So it was Verstappen, Lando, and then Hamilton. Not sure, Pete. Do you know where Daniel finished?
Fourth.
He was fourth. Yeah. I would have thought he would have. I would have thought he'd have finished higher because everyone you talk to just.
You mean fans?
Yeah, it was done by it was a survey done by motorsport.com, which is they're an interesting mob at the best of times. So just how reliable it is.
Their sample data can be a bit dodgy. Yes, I hear that one. I'll tell you what though, other than the Hamilton Verstappen obvious championship battle, I'll tell you what, it's almost as juicy, and you die-hard fans like we are, or to a certain extent you enjoy watching the Formula One in general, is the Constructors' Championship. You've got Mercedes or the Silver Arrows versus obviously Red Bull, but the McLaren Ferrari one's just as intense. I'm not a betting man. I've never laid a dollar other than a scratchy or a Melbourne Cup Day roughie. McLaren versus Ferrari, it's hot to trot at the moment. They're all guns blazing. Who's going for that third or fourth place there in the championship? It's going to be great to see that out the season, I think.
Yeah, that's the other the battle. So we've got a couple of battles to look at. Because that's because every spot on the ladder they finish ahead of is literally millions of dollars. They get more and more money. So it's a very keenly contested. The Constructors' Championship is basically where the money comes from, and so the battle between Red Bull and Mercedes is pretty tight. Although I think Mercedes is on top just basically because of the better results from Valtteri Bottas. But Ferrari and McLaren, and that was probably the highlight of the race was the battle between the Ferraris and McLaren. But also the other one that was interesting was, boy, what a bad weekend for Alpine with their cars. The bumps got to them. They shook both of the cars to pieces.
Well, I think we all saw the sparks coming off of multiple cars in braking zones. The bumps are pretty terrible. I can understand why the Moto GP riders were upset at the track. That's pretty substandard. They have said that afterwards. They have said that afterwards they are going to resurface it, pretty much because of the Moto GP. They've sort of said that they will resurface it and fix those bumps for next year. So it'll be a better
it'll be a better surface for next year. Andrew saying, will the local media there ask the drivers American football questions like they ask AFL football questions to drivers here? No, they'll probably ask them NASCAR questions. What do you think Kyle Larson could be a Formula One champion?
No.
Yeah, okay. I know that. Yeah, who's he?
Yeah, well, as you said, it was all about strategy, Brett, and it was the undercut. So I felt the comment from Verstappen, whether it was premeditated or he was in the moment when he came in on lap 10 and said his tyres were too hot and he wanted to get off the mediums that were heating up and wanted to get onto the hards for the longevity, which turned out great because the undercut for 3 laps later, Hamilton probably, all the experts are saying, Hamilton, get in. Why aren't you going to get in? And yeah, Mercedes probably left it too late. They were probably too scared to ask him on the radio, Lewis, would you like to come in?
There was a message shortly about there was a message that came up, I think, even before Verstappen had come out of the pits, and it was Lewis saying, my tyres are fine.
Leave Lewis alone. No. It's okay. You just come in when you want to. Just, take your time.
Yeah, which once again shows you've got to listen to the team. The team knows better than the drivers in most situations. I've heard sort of I think Martin Brundle amongst others have said, the drivers are out there. They know the conditions better than the people. Nowadays, probably not. Nowadays, I mean the big picture is being watched by the team, and the team knows. The team can find the gaps, and they'll say, okay, if you come in now. It might be 3 or 4 laps earlier than you want to come in now, but we know that if you come in now, we're going to get you out into a nice little hole, and you're going to have sort of 5 or 6 laps where you can just put the foot down and, as Lewis says, hammer time and really go for it. But the problem is, of course, is passing, and that's going to be the interesting thing for next year, of course, with the new cars, as they're claiming they'll be easier to pass, because that was the thing that the battle between Ricardo and Sainz and Norris was the fact that they just, basically once they got back into line astern, Sainz was clearly quicker than Ricardo was until he got close enough to pass, and then he was in the dirty air, and there was just no way he could get past. Used up his tyres and just basically dropped back.
Speaking of Sainz, and to reiterate what Pete was saying about radio messages, the team radioed Carlos Sainz and said, your tyres are performing better than what everyone expected. So I actually told him his tyres are going great and you're doing fine, so just keep doing what you're doing. Not the other way around, Carlos giving feedback, how are your tyres? They told him your tyres are going great. So, yeah, the team does know better.
And he's very good on his tyre life. He's done, I mean, that's how he won his last race. He manages his tyres very, very well, and that's an advantage. And he really sacrificed a lot of his race in order to make things better, because they brought him in earlier than they probably planned, just so they could force Mercedes' hands, because I think it was a case of, Lewis was like, we've probably got to cover Perez just in case. And that sort of messed up everything at...
Did everyone see the highlights of Norris, Ricardo, and the Ferrari in the first lap? The hot shoe shuffle? That was really great racing for the first lap between those 3 cars.
Yeah, well, that was a good thing that, as I said, with Dan said afterwards, because Sainz sort of, criticised him and said that, he accused him of dirty driving, but, and Dan put his hand up and said, well, it might have been a bit dirty, but, I'm out there to race, and I'm usually a pretty nice guy, and perhaps there's no more Mr. Nice Guy. So are we seeing, in wrestling terms, are we seeing a heel turn by Daniel Ricciardo? There's a
pole drive.
So is he sort of turning? Is Daniel Ricciardo turning heel? Because it certainly paid off for him. I mean, he got his elbows out, and he forced the issue, and he got in front. And once he was in front, that was the end of the penny section, and basically, Sainz couldn't get past, and neither for that matter could his teammate Norris. So
he might get a new nickname instead of the Honey Badger. Might be the Killer Bee.
Yeah, whatever. I mean, but
anyway,
good luck to him.
Yeah, what's I mean, he didn't make contact with anyone, and yeah, maybe he did do a couple of dives. It was all fair and above board in the end. And no one copped the penalty, and no one had come off second best. So it is what it is. So as you said, elbows out. It is. Alonso said that last race. Remember, we were discussing that last week. Alonso said, "I'm tired of being Mr. Nice Guy. I'm going to go out there and and I'm going to bend the rules like everybody else is."
There was interesting correspondence between the Alpine race director and Michael Massey. He had an altercation with Kimi Räikkönen and Fernando Alonso, and they said, "Is it okay for Kimi to do what he's just done, and not okay for Alonso to do something else, whatever he had an altercation previously?" So I think it was a continuation of that. There seems to be one rule for me and different rules for everybody else.
Yeah, it was a sort of a preemptive strike there by the Alpine team management, sort of saying, that, and in the end it didn't do any good because I mean, you had to give the spot back, and then he had to give the spot back again. There was another swap later. I mean, so both of them sort of copped the threat of the penalty.
Could you imagine Kimmy's response? And it'd be the death stare, and you wouldn't get a word out of him. It would be, "Go bleeping away," and then he'd just get back. Yeah, that's all you get from Kimmy out of it. That'd be hilarious. It'd be short, sharp, or nothing at all. Just like.
The other thing that came out of the weekend was it now looks like it's not. I don't think it's official, but certainly the word around is that the rumoured buyout of Sauber by Andretti Racing, Michael Andretti, apparently has fallen through and is now off the table. So there was probably not a lot of chance for that to come off to begin with, because as has been pointed out by a number of people, Nick Damon on Midweek Motorsport has pointed out that Sauber aren't in any particular financial trouble. They've got the support of Alfa Romeo. They've got some driver support coming in as well. So they're not in any mad hurry. It's not a fire sale or anything. So yeah, they're quite happy to keep going. So unfortunately, in a way, that Andretti didn't get hold of Sauber, but I don't know why. If he desperately wants to get into Formula One, which apparently he does, perhaps you should have a look at Haas, because let's face it, they're not doing anything wonderful. I mean, the only reason they're actually on track at the moment is because the All-American team with a German driver and given to them through Mercedes, and a pay driver who's bringing all the money from Russia. There's nothing much American about them.
There's no sparkle about it. Or create a new team. You want to put?
Well, wasn't there an IndyCar team called Andretti Haas?
That was a different Haas. That was Carl Haas, who was the American Lola importer. And he raced in IndyCar and also raced in the days of Formula 5000. Mario Andretti, Michael's father, drove for Haas in Formula 5000, and then also Alan Jones drove for him as well in both Formula 5000 and the Can-Am. And of course, they had when the Beatrice Lola that Alan Jones came back and drove, Haas had a input into that as well. I saw Carl Haas up in the Gold Coast coming through. It was a torrential downpour, one of those sort of mid-afternoon monsoonal storms that hit regularly up at the Gold Coast, and the underpass going under the main straight was absolutely flooded, and they were taking him through in a golf cart, and he always had the cigar. The cigar was never lit, at least in the pit, but he always had the trademark cigar, and he was coming through the pits, coming in under the track into the thing, and got into this very flooded area in the golf cart, and the golf cart died. So all these Aussie fans, sort of jumped behind and were pushing him out through the water so he could get to the other side and get back to where he was.
Well, they're going to be heading. The Formula One's going to be heading to somewhere where you get that tropical monsoonal storms. They're off to Mexico in 2 weeks, so there's always a chance of some sort of a shower there in a humidified way.
Yeah, that's the Yeah, well, I think I think at this time of the year they're probably fairly safe.
You're hot, Brett.
I'm hot now. Okay, I turned it up because
damn hot, baby.
Okay.
You're as hot. You're as hot as the Mexican desert.
I turned up a bit because
24 dBs lufts there.
Yeah.
I just gave it a bit of a touch. What am I like now? Is that better?
Still a bit hot. Still
You're
a bit hot.
gorgeous, mate. You're gorgeous.
Okay. Well, it's the shirt. It's the shirt. Clothes maketh the man.
Oh,
if you're listening on the podcast, I mean, you're missing out on something very special. Do colour and movement.
No, you're not. Yes, you're better off on the podcast. Trust me.
Yeah, as Virtual R saying, as Roy saying that it was Newman. Paul Newman had the arrangement with the partnership with Carl Haas. So it was Newman Haas in the Formula in the gold. I was going to keep saying Gold Star, the Can-Am days, with the single-seater car, with first Alan Jones and with Jackie X and a few others.
Talking about
anyway,
things, but it's a good segue anyway. Not necessarily the sport itself, but Queensland Raceway has got a new owner though.
Yeah, I'm not sure how that's all working. I think there's sort of a deal that sort of John Tetley's holding on to some of it. I think he's hanging on to the Lakeside or something, but Tony Quinn's basically getting Queensland Raceway, and that's a really good move. It'll be he'll spend the money that needs to be spent in that area. He's a good operator, and as I said last week, when Tony Quinn says he's going to do something, he'll do it. I mean, he's not all. There's so many people in the sport that are all talk and. We'll get out there and say, "Oh, we're going to do this, we're going to do that," and nothing ever comes of it. If Tony says he's going to do it, he'll move heaven and earth, and
it'll be fuel injected, absolutely.
And he won't give a damn who he annoys doing it.
Oh, and that's the thing, though.
Positive for the sport.
When he's doing something positive, it's 9. You get 1 in 1,000 people, 1 in 100,000 people that don't like it, and they really haven't got much basis to the argument other than they don't like it. So, they just. A little bit narrow-minded, and hopefully he just doesn't burn too many people and put their nose out of joint. But for the greater good, he will go. He'll move heaven and earth to get it done. So, and that's what a lot of areas do need in different tracks. I mean, we've seen something similar in drag racing here in regional Victoria happen lately. We hope it's going to happen out west, out near where Stuart lives. I've seen a little bit of a revitalisation and getting a little bit more local this week. The Daniel Motorcycle Club has used the last year and a half to out Lang Lang Way here and get the track upgraded and done a whole lot of moved a lot of dirt and got it up to scratch, and they're doing some open days at the moment. So when people all like-minded people and want to get together and put their mind to it, it's great to see some upgrades.
Speaking of, I'll just touch on it briefly because it was very sad. I mean, we had Lance Warren on the program a few weeks ago from Heathcote Park, and very disappointing the behaviour of some of the people involved in a burnout competition there last week. I mean, Lance opened up the track to camping, didn't charge people, just said if you want to come along, be a part of it. Camping's included because it is sort of a bit hard to get to, and unfortunately, a few people misbehaved pretty badly. They did some damage out there. They stole some things. There was some. As we're a family, for what it's worth, we're sort of a family show. But there was stuff that we certainly couldn't talk about on a clean show. So. And you can tell today that Lance is really, really disappointed, and he has every right to be in some of the behaviour from some of the sort of response he's got on social media too has just been, from these idiots basically going, what are you complaining about? We're paying our money, we can do what we like, and it's like, you should be considering yourselves very, very lucky to have that venue and the amount of time, effort, and money that Lance has put in there to get that place, not just open again, but to constantly improve it. Show a bit of respect, because he's saying now, he said, if this thing happens again, there'll be no more burnout competitions. That'll be the end of it. I mean, that's
good question then, Brett.
From it.
I haven't seen any of this particular subject. You said there's been damage caused. 1, would the authorities need to be called? And 2, anything long term?
Nothing like it was just sort of souveniring, signs on the side of the track, and people and just stuff that was left around. It's taken them. I think Lance said today it's basically taken them all of this week to try and get the place to a fit state where they can run meetings this weekend as well. He said, we've just spent a whole week of just basically repairing the damage and all the chaos that was caused last week, and it's just not good enough. I mean, it's really terrible behaviour.
I hope he's got a blacklist in their band for future events, because it's obviously those people aren't wanted, and if those people do come along and they become patrons on a regular basis and they cause this sorts of trouble, it puts everybody else off from going there, and you don't have an event anyway.
Well, I think as Paul's pointing out, he said burnout comps are not worth the trouble they attract. I mean, if you have a look, they had this sort of situation happened up at Winton as well. The Eastern Nats at Sandown had an element to it that helped get that thing shut down. I mean, they John Davison bent over backwards there and really went into bat for those people, and I was there on occasions when the clerk, of course, was physically threatened on one occasion. I was in there when he said basically because the guy was doing burnouts in the pit area, and he just said, right, you going home, and it was like hey, you get me, you try and throw me out, and me and my mates are coming up, and we're trashing the place. So it's.
Yeah, it's disgraceful.
Yeah, very, very disappointing. I mean, because I don't understand the whole burnout thing. I don't understand at all. It's not right. It's just basically, it's like, oh, spin the tyres, smoke comes, magic. It's burnouts in drag racing have a reason. They're not just done for show. They're there for a reason. That's why they do them. But just to sit there and just spin your tyres away and just produce buckets and buckets of rubber-filled and carbon-filled smoke into the air, I don't think is doing much of the image of the sport.
Go out into a paddock and do donuts to the cows come home. That's what they should be doing.
The first year they ran the Summer Nats with John Davidson, I was the guy Eastern Nats, sorry, yeah. Brett. I was the guy had the big horn, which went.
I beg your pardon?
Yes, I was going to say, yeah.
Yeah,
that's what she said.
Siren, the big siren.
Clean show.
I was going to say, I'm glad the camera shot's above the belt.
Yes. The magnifying glass.
Salt and pepper.
There's the main for you.
Siren. Can we get back on the topic? I had the big siren, and I had to stop the guys after 3 minutes or 2 minutes doing the burnout. Well, when I could see they were getting right into it, I'd let them go further until their motors blew up. The amount of cars which caught fire blew. I mean, when I say blew up, it blew the bonnets off them. That's how much. You had guys with a $20,000 paint job, and the whole paint's blistering and burning.
And you let it ride.
It was great fun.
Well, I remember sort of when we covered the Eastern Nats, and I mean it's up on the YouTube channel. If you go to the In Pit Lane YouTube channel and do a search for Eastern Nats, you'll see some of the footage. And Melissa and I were out there filming, and we got back, and it was okay. We were down on the track as they were doing the burnout, so and we got back home, and we took we didn't have our own camera back then. We were using the RMI TV cameras that we borrowed, and I took the camera back to RMI TV, and they had to open it up to show them that everything was okay. And as soon as you opened up the damn the
smoke,
all you could smell was, and then you could see as I took it out and sort of ran my fingers over it. And I thought, that's how filthy the camera got. We were standing there for like 3 days in the middle of it all. Imagine all the crap that was going into our lungs.
I'm glad you chose your words carefully, because I was going to say, if you open up the camera and there was rubber there, I was going to say just keep it clean again, because we've already talked about Richard's horn, so horns and rubbers. So I believe it. Anyway.
And for those people who do like burnouts, Burnouts Unlimited on YouTube has got Warbird at Heathcote Park. But I'm not seeing any comments on the social media to say the stuff that we're hearing being reported.
Yeah, it's on the Facebook. It's on the Heathcote Park Facebook page. Yeah, so that's...
Anyway, we do not endorse this, and we do actually not condone it. We condemn it. Please stop. Don't go to the tracks. You're not wanted. We don't want it, And of course, as you said, the operators, whether it be here in Melbourne or out Whoop Whoop or east, north, south, or west, don't turn up. We don't want you, and we'll just kick you out.
The good news for this weekend is because tomorrow night they're pulling down a lot of the restrictions, including the restrictions on travelling out of the Melbourne metropolitan area. That for the next few weeks they're opening up because they were running meetings up at Heathcote Park pretty much every weekend anyway. So they're basically like opening up and letting people enter sort of late from Melbourne. So if you're in Melbourne and you're desperate to get out on the track and do some genuine drag racing and some, take it semi-seriously, then go out there and contact the people up at Heathcote Park Dragway and see about getting up there in the next couple of weeks and supporting them and showing some support for what they're doing up there. And as you said, Doc, I mean, hopefully we're not too far away from hearing something on the Calder Park front as well. Now that things are getting back to some semblance of normality, so we might get something in. Hopefully we'll get some news in the next few weeks about something happening out at Calder.
How much did you pay for 65 plus 35% of the supercars? Breaking news, 6 o'clock this morning.
Yeah, well, that's it. We had Supercars has new owners. They're called Race, which I forget what the acronym, but it was like Racing Australia Corporation Entertainment or something. But whatever it's called Race. It has a lot of the people that we sort of heard, the people from Craig Kelly's mob and a few others, and also there's an involvement of the Australian Racers Group, including Barry Rogers and Gary Rogers, of course.
Barry's put out a statement today as well.
Yes, he's sort of saying that they're coming from an interesting position because and as we know, I mean, Gary has spoken to us, and both Gary and Barry have spoken to us about the situation in terms of why they had to get out of supercars and the money involved and why they moved into they threw their weight behind TCR and ultimately S5000 as well. I think the interesting thing is going to be because monopolies are never good, and what you've got now is essentially a monopoly of professional level racing in Australia. The supercars and all the Australian racing groups, categories such as TCR and S5000 are now basically under the same umbrella. The Bathurst 6 Hour, the Bathurst International, and the Bathurst 12 Hour. They're all, and of course the 1000. All of them will be basically under the control now of this new organisation. So. I mean, they pretty much own everything. It'll be interesting to see what happens in terms of, right now, I mean, I've got, sort of hanging from the door over there, I've got a little piece of plastic that says that, if we'd have had any rounds of the Shannon's Australian Motorsport Championships happening this year, we could get in and we could interview people and we could cover them. That certainly is not the case, or hasn't been the case for the last 8 to 10 years with Supercars Australia, and whether that will now change as well, and whether people like us will be told, hey, you're not coming here anymore. It might well end up that sort of outside of state level and grassroots level racing, we're not going to be able to go anywhere and cover anything because it's an entertainment property of Supercars Australia.
Hopefully, we've always stayed in the good books with Matt Braid and Grant Rowley. We're still in them, and hopefully we get a plastic card for next year for some sort of stuff. That'd be great. So, hi Grant, hi Matt. If you're listening or watching at some stage of this, we'd love to see you again, please. It's good, and we'll give you some great footage.
Well, I must admit, there is the final round. They have rescheduled the final round of the Australian, the Cairns Australian Motorsport Championships to the Bend in December, and I am thinking, because I've got the pass, I am thinking of sort of possibly heading over there and doing a story on the Bend, and just because it might be the last opportunity, I get, but we'll see about. we'll see about that. As is also pointing out, Paul, the Australian Superbike Championships announced earlier today the final series round is moving from Phillip Island to the Bend also on December the 3rd and the 5th. So Superbike's heading to the Bend, and I think that's sort of the weekend before the ARG meeting with TCR and S5000.
And the supercars themselves start off at SMP this weekend, and they're under lights. You can watch some coverage. Is it 3:30 on Saturday, Peter?
On Channel 7 it is, and about 3:30 on Saturday, and a bit earlier on KO and Foxtel, but 3:30 on Channel 7 and 12:30 on Sunday.
So there's going to be basically an evening race on the Saturday, and then a normal sort of Sunday afternoon race on the Sunday for that first round. A lot of the teams have got special livery. I mean, I didn't put them up there, but Dave Reynolds has got special livery. The Blanchard team, Tim Slade has got special livery. There's a few people who've got special sort of super duper glow in the dark, under lights, highly fluorescent paint schemes, which they usually don't work well on television. They look really good in the flesh, but Stuart's smiling. He knows.
Have some of the cars tipped slime on top of their bonnets and hoods? Have they?
So
glow in the dark slime stuff. But anyway, at least basically the driver merry-go-round supercars have stopped just in time for the restart of the season. Pretty much all the seats are taken and they're locked in, or they're 99% sure now, and a lot of the innuendo has stopped, so they can all concentrate on going and basically know where they stand to a certain extent and go racing for the next 4 weekends straight in Sydney, and then a week and a half later for the big gun up in SW.
Yeah, we've got, as was expected, Nick Percat has been as official now. He's going to Walkinshaw, Andretti United, to be alongside Chaz Mostert. We've got Jack LeBrock is moving back to Matt Stone Racing, and Matt Stone's picked up a couple of drivers there. I think young Goddard is about the only person at this stage who hasn't definitely signed. Although our guest recently on In Pit Lane, Macaulay Jones, there's been nothing official at this stage, but I mean, he was certainly very confident. I mean, let's face it, our dad owns the team, so. But I think they were looking. I think they're still waiting to come up with a sponsorship package. Whether because I think they're basically waiting to see what Chris Pither and Coca-Cola do with that sponsorship.
Cam Waters signed late last week as well too, so that one's another one.
Yeah, Cam. The good news for Cam's signing as well, and this hopefully we'll be able to get a chance to get down and see him this year, is that the team have said that we've got no problems with Cam running Speedway over the summer months, as long as it doesn't get in the road of any of his supercar commitments. If he wants to run his sprint cars, good luck to him. So hopefully we'll see Cam in action in the sprint cars a little bit later on in the year.
Likes his Gippsland's sprint car direction too, so he's not too far down the road if we can wave a camera aim, as you would say, Brett. So that'll be good. But yeah, the merry-go-rounds and stopped, and basically everyone knows where they are stand and where they don't stand to a certain extent, and can just, as I said, enjoy the racing for the rest of the year. So it's,
also, just want to point out, Mark pointing out that Christian Mansell, the young Australian driver, raced in the last race of the European Formula 3 Championship, and they're still Formula 3 cars. Those one came fifth in the car he'd never driven until last week. So that was a really good performance, and he will be moving full-time to the European Championship next year. And also a special shout-out to a couple of In Pit Lane alumni, a couple of friends of the show. First, our mate Hugh Barter won the last round or the last race of the last round of the French Formula 4 Championship, and ended up finishing second in the French Formula 4 Championship. Now, not sure what the plans are for next year, but hopefully he'll have the opportunity to continue on over there, because he and his family put in a lot of hard work, and he did a really good job. I mean, he was competitive from the second he got over there, and obviously has finished the year well. Had a bit of a slight hiccups. I mean, he's always been in the first 3 or 4, but just a couple of slight hiccups. There is some behind-the-scenes stuff with one of the other drivers in terms of who lost some points there, and that might affect whether Hugh is sort of second or third. But either way, great performance by Hugh, and also to Cooper Murray, who was on only a couple of weeks ago on the program. He was in the French Carrera Cup Championship. Finished fourth in his first race at Portimao, a track he'd never been to before, and a car he'd never driven before, and then he was third in the second race, and he's preparing for the Porsche Young Driver Shootout, which I don't think they've officially announced it yet, but I believe that a little bird tells me that it may well be at Silverstone. I don't think that's been announced yet, but the word around is it may well be, it could be at Silverstone, a bit late in the year for Silverstone, I would have thought, but anyway, he'll take part in that, and that'll be fantastic if he can sort of make the move over there as well. Also, Josh Byrd, another young Australian, doing very well. He's going to be racing for the Andretti team in LMP3 at the Petit Le Mans, the final round of the IMSA North American Sports Car Championship. Normally races in the Asian Le Mans series, but he's coming over to race in the US series for IMSA. So so there's a few people.
That's the roundup of the Brett Ramsey Talent Series. Well done. Good luck to all those guys. Brett keeps his finger on the pulse and keeps track of where all the guys, whether we've had them on in pit lane or not on in pit lane. You certainly are a huge encourager. And when we go around the tracks, and Brett's always like, "Oh, got to catch up with that young fellow over there. I haven't spoken to him yet, and find out what he's been up to and what he's got his plans are." So if you're a young fellow and you're watching in pit lane and you're only at the Oakley Karting Club, which we've gone out and covered before, don't be afraid to come up and say hi. We'd love to see how you're going in motorsport.
Speaking of which, the Oakley Kart Club have just begun work on the extensions to their track. They got very big support, some government support from the Victorian government's motorsport
Grant
fund, the one they set up, the grant system, and they go. It's going to be a big improvement to that track. It's going to be a longer track. They're putting in a big loop section which will go up basically to where the car park is now, up the hill where we normally park and where the pits are right now. They're going to sort of have a bit of a loop up there, and it looks really good. I'm just sitting there going, yeah, it makes it harder for us to cover with 3 cameras, but one of those shots is going to look really, really good.
It goes from 6 cameras to 10 now, does it, Brett? Just to cover the extra.
Well, at least 4. And as I said, when they come, if they keep the rise, if they keep the elevation that they've got there, the natural elevation, that run round the loop and then coming back to rejoin the track, the existing track, is going to be a really spectacular, photo come camera shot. So, but it's going to be a while before that's finished. But good luck to the Oakley Kart Club. And that was really fabulous to see them getting that support, and for all the tracks and all the clubs that got support through that. That was only, as I said, that was only the first round of those grants. So there'll be more stuff coming hopefully next year as well. So that'll be great stuff.
Just before we change subjects, I just got something for the guys around the room with me and for the viewers and listeners. Just a bit of feedback. Obviously, the guys like Mag Cal and Box and Tony P and Giuseppe and everyone else that watches. If I've missed you just for the last minute, just put up a little concept, a little lower third there, graphic on if you're thinking about going up to New South Wales for the 6-day event for the combined TCR S5000s and Bathurst 1000s. Just give us some feedback. I'm thinking about myself. I don't know whether to take a week's holiday from work or not, or do you think it's worth going up into New South Wales? Do you think we'll get accommodation, what the event's going to be like? So, it's only 5 weeks away. Give us some feedback at In Pit Lane and tell us what you think of whether you think it's worth going up to, or you got any plans, or what do you think, guys?
I don't think they've announced the numbers. I don't think they've announced the actual numbers that can go up for the 1,000. I take it, Richard, that the Bathurst Challenge is still going ahead.
Yeah, I think it is. It all looks like everything's in place, but I still don't know if I can get across the border into New South Wales yet. There's so many rules and stuff. I know I can get back, but can I get up there?
That's what New South Wales won't let us in without quarantining at this stage, you think?
I think you've got to have permits or something, or
Right.
quarantine. But it's meant to all change. Probably the week before I'm meant to go up. Well, it's getting pretty close now. So actually, Monday I'm going to have a full look at what's allowed. You see, it doesn't matter coming back, even if I have to quarantine. I quarantine in my house for a couple of weeks.
What's your dates before you go too far, Richard? What are the dates for your Bathurst Challenge?
13th and 14th
Of December.
Yeah, November.
No, November.
November 13th
So
and
it's
14th
about
November.
2 weeks, 2.5
2 weeks away. So
Yeah.
it's creeping up.
Yeah.
And what? Obviously, you're on the XLs there. What other support races will there be for the XLs?
Well, it's really a regularity time lap. They have sports cars on Wednesday and Thursday, I think, or it might be Thursday and Friday, and they have races, but then but you've got to get a minimum time, and it's twice the price. So, yeah.
I mean, that was the meeting a couple of years ago where Christopher Mees set the new outright
that's right.
record there, because I mean they were able to run the GT3 cars pretty much without the GT3 balance of performance limitations. So that's where he set the fabulous time. So there'll be some quick times there. I was certainly looking to seeing. I'd like to go up there, but. Yeah, unfortunately, I mean, I'd like to go everywhere at the moment, but the point is, you got to pay for these. You got to pay for these things. You got to have both the time and more, particularly. You've got to have the money, and right now I got neither. We've got Andrew saying planning for 75 capacity at Bathurst early December. Is bad for Andrew for his work, but I think it's probably bad for everybody. But I think beggars can't be choosers at the moment. But that's what Macaulay Jones was saying on the interview on the show just recently, that the December date is going to create a whole new range of possible problems, because it is very possible that this year's Bathurst 1000 could be held in sort of low 30-degree heat, and that's going to cause that's going to give its own challenge.
Yeah, well, if it always rains in the last hour. I think you're about to switch across to two wheels a minute ago, were you, Brett? And we'll start with the Moto 2, won't you? It'd be great to be an Aussie leading the championship at the moment, wouldn't it?
Yeah, well, he did. Remy Gardner still jumping. We have a new Moto GP champion in the Premier class, and congratulations to Fabio Guadarraro.
22-year-old Frenchman, not bad to be young, would it be? It'd be the hottest property in France at the moment.
And the first Frenchman in history to win the Moto GP championship. So that was, or any major world motorcycle championship. So after over 100 years of motorcycle racing, and it pretty much began in France, of course, that it's taken them this long to get a championship. But good luck, you'll get a champion. But good luck to Fabio. He raced well. Marc Marquez, of course, won the race, but it was all looking good for the Ducatis with Paco Bagnaia and our own Frank Miller, but they decided to whack on some hard compound front tyres on.
I've got some Bridgestone battle axes that need coming off my bike at the moment. They're a bit hard.
Yeah, well, they certainly, you could see, I mean, in both cases, they were almost identical crashes. The front wheel just sort of, basically, just ran away from them, and, down they went. So, very disappointing.
Jack gave us at least the reasoning why, and I do believe him to a certain extent. So that turn, as you said, caught a lot of riders out over the thing, and it does, because it was a left-hand turn of the track rather than right-hand. They're asymmetrical tyres, which mean the compounds are slightly different on either side as well, though, too, even though they're overall a hard compound. And as you said, it was in the same corner, almost carbon copy between the two riders. And now the only two riders in the whole field were running that hard compound, but less turns on that particular side means the tyre gets colder, and also they took a punt on the weather as well, though, too. Not because it didn't rain, because the sun went out and therefore the track isn't as warm and it was overcast and therefore the tyre was also colder and they wanted the tyre to be warmer to be able to get more grip and it would have lasted longer. So that's what Jack said. The sun went out and became overcast and we took a punt and it hurt. So anyway, but longevity-wise, Jack's got to write the year off. The best he can do is third in the championship now, which is hopefully you can get there. Go, Jack, stay on the bike and get some top fives, top sixes, and you might displace Joan Mir, who's seen he can't do anything good on the Suzuki at the moment. He's having a bad couple of races, including having run-ins with Jack. So stay away from each other because Jack will knock you a flat, punch in the noggin. You won't have a schnoz. So but yeah, congratulations, Fabio. If you watch the highlights package, it wasn't just emotional from Mr. Guadarraro. It was also a big shebang. There was fireworks. He was standing in front of the screens. He had a gold helmet coming out of a plastic box, a Perspex box as usual. So it was good. But it was a well applauded win and in the championship by amongst all the other riders too. Everyone was giving him a lot of backslaps and congratulations and well done, and he deserves it. So, and also Jack in the pits, there was a probably will go down as one of the most famous photographs down in all time. Was Jack obviously crashed out, I think in the first 3-5 laps or something like that, and when his teammate Checo Bagnaia, he crashed. He came into the pits and he didn't even have his helmet off yet, and Jack gave him a big hug as well, though, too. You could see that. So bad luck, mate, because he was still in the running for the championship if he was 3 points adrift from Fabio from the last 3 races, but he wasn't really in the mix anyway. So anyway, it was a great race. It's what it's going to turn out to be is next year. Marc Marquez is 28 going on 29. Guadarraro is 22 going on 23. You know, Marquez has won all those championships, a bit like Valentino has 9 in his career. Is Marquez going to be at the top of his game next year? Guadarraro is going to be Mr. Consistent and got these demons out of his head. And there's going to be every other Tom, Dick, and Harry in the top 10 trying to beat them as well too. It's going to make some great racing in Moto GP next year. It's much anticipated. It's got something to look forward to.
Yeah, I mean, it's an ominous return to form by Marc Marquez. I mean, he's obviously had some problems since the crash and since the time he spent out injured, but it seems that he's coming back to form now, and it was one of his first wins on an anti-clockwise track as well, because he's never particularly liked them. So that was a good performance by him, and I thought he showed a lot of class at the end of the race as well. When He sort of got up there and said, "Well, I'm really glad to have won, and I really appreciate all the support. But this is Fabio's day. We've got a new world champion, and this is all about him, and it's all about the last local appearance of Valentino Rossi as well. I thought Dorna did a really good job in terms of the way they presented that thing for Guadarraro, pulling him up and having the display and stop here, and they showed highlights of his career and the racing of the year. It was
even the crashes.
Emotional.
Even the crashes
so it was,
they showed,
so it was. I thought they did a really, really good job with the flames and the fireworks, and I thought they did a fabulous job. I thought it was a very impressive presentation.
It was an unusual win of the championship by Guadarraro, because up until the start of the season, he won races last year, but was very inconsistent. He was almost Maverick Vinales like last year. He could win, but he just never showed the full potential. And he'd been like that all the way from Moto 3, Moto 2, finally got some wins and stuff like that. But when he hit Moto GP, something clicked early last year, and he started winning races. It was like, and it didn't even need to race all those junior categories all the way leading up to it. He was built to ride a Moto GP bike, and he was, all that stuff. Because there was a lot of critics when he got a Moto GP Guernsey, he got a gig, because they said, "Why have you signed this guy? He hasn't delivered. He hasn't proven yet. Okay, he's a nice guy. Yeah, he can ride, but he's nothing special." But someone obviously saw the gift in him, and now it's one quick thing though. Yamaha is not necessarily the best bike they're out in the track. Just want to make that point. So hopefully we'll see some improvements from them next year. Guadarraro is just obviously a massive talent. And 2, congratulations to Honda, because they're not the best bike on the track at the moment either as well, though, too, because it was Honda 1-2 with Polar Spargaro getting second place with the two Ducatis wiping out early.
Yeah, that was the first time that's happened in years. I think it's something like almost a decade or something like that. I heard that today on Midweek Motorsport. They were saying that.
Times.
Yeah, incidentally, speaking of junior categories, a few changes in light of some of the recent incidents. The world governing body of motorsport, the FIM, have raised the minimum age for riders in some of the junior categories. They're up to 16 and 18 in some cases. So they've sort of acted on some of those tragedies that have happened recently. But as you see, going across the bottom of the screen at the moment, the FIM Mini GP Series Australia is set to debut next year, and it's these are basically the mini bikes. And the interesting thing is the first round of the Australian series in March is going to be held here in Melbourne at the Todd Road circuit at the go-kart track, the Go-Kart Club of Melbourne, their track in the shadow of the Westgate Bridge. So that'll be really fascinating, and I keep our fingers crossed we're allowed to go down there and have a look at that, because that sounds like that could be an awful lot of fun.
Hey, well, as Stuart's above me, Richard's over to my right here, or left of screen as well, though, too. Let's get the gang back together out and let's go and do a bloody live stream and have some fun doing it. Obviously, Brett will. Yeah, that'd be good, because it's sort of central to all our locations and where we all can come with a meet and have a can of Coke together. That'd be fantastic, or choice of beverage, whatever you want.
Speaking of cans of Coke, I think we'd better get on to one. I see somebody's tummy rumbling out there. Somebody obviously...
No. That's not just before I do... That's the Thunder.
Yeah,
that's my place.
Just before I do
that's why I'm looking
squares,
up, because all hell's about to break loose.
Yeah, I was going to private message Stuart a minute, because he got the great big rain band going across Melbourne. We had the radar up for all the viewers and listeners before we started our FCY Full Course Yellow tonight. 10:15, Stuart, it hit. So it was about 1 hour from your place to mine when it suddenly downpoured out the back here as well too. So I just wanted to let you know how fast.
I think during this time we have not had a drop. I have not. There's been no. I haven't heard any rain. I haven't heard any thunder or seen any lightning or anything. So
your tin's well insulated. Brett's going to sign us all off soon. So before I do, I've got to quickly do the celebrity squares. Last week it was best F Formula One liveries. Richard, this is a question without notice, so I'll go to you last. I'm going to go around the room, and this week I'm going to make it. Let's do NASCAR. Your favourite NASCAR liveries on the cars. That could be from last year, last week, or 10 years ago. Let's go top above me first. Peter, NASCAR.
Well, mine's from about 20 years ago. It's Ron Goodman in the West Coast Wine Cooler NASCAR, because he took me around Calder Park.
Oh, you had a ride in one.
Yes. Yeah.
Did you have a little drinky afterwards as well, though, too? A nice little sip of the white wine stuff?
No.
I think they still sell that at the liquor outlets. And
I somehow don't think Pete's a West Coast wine cooler sort of guy, are you, Pete?
No, he's a beer man. What about you, Stuart? How nostalgic are you?
Not very, but we'll just kill the graphic. This was one of my favourite ones, and people with history can recognise it, but my actual favourite one was Burt Ward's Dodge. Why? Because Dodge.
There you go. With two little ducks on the side as well, though, too. So it was good in the wet, I bet. There you go.
NASCAR doesn't race in the wet.
There you go. We all love Stuart's graphics, because whenever he usually has, he can bring it up within almost a heartbeat. Brett, your favourite NASCAR livery?
I would have to go. The one that's instantly comes to mind is Jeff Gordon's sort of Rainbow Warrior livery for the DuPont car over the years. That's the car I remember seeing. I remember that it had a special place. I remember seeing it sort of in the flesh at Goodwood, and it was sort of really special to sort of say, well, that's a really famous NASCAR livery. So that'd be mine. Jeff Gordon's Rainbow Warrior.
Yeah, sounds like a classic. And Richard, anything in NASCAR tickle your fancy?
Yes, yeah.
Oh, tickle your horn, I should say. Sorry.
Yeah, thank you. The Kyle Busch's M&M's one from America.
Oh yes, stole my thunder.
And from Australia, it's Eddie Albanitz's Oldsmobile. Now, why I should say that is because during we went to a men's entertainment place in the
With
city.
your horn?
No, let's
No, there was
keep
no
on the
trumpet
topic
involved.
here
Okay.
to find that here's these girls dancing, and they've got half of one of Eddie's cars, it's cut long ways, up on the stage, and they're dancing in front of it. And I go, where the hell did that come from?
Where did they get that prop from?
Well, I did eventually find out that Phil Carter told me that it went to someone who bought it off someone else who had it hanging around, and they sold it for a couple of bucks to somebody else. But it was a long time ago I heard the story, so it's getting a bit thin now. But yeah, that was a very memorable car.
Yeah.
That sounds a little bit like the entertainment at a certain Darwin pub, Brett.
Yes, it is. Yes, it was.
There were race cars up on the wall.
There were race cars.
There was a 4-poster hoist for the dance floor that rose up and down.
No, that
Hey, that's
sounds
good.
like it's
I like
that's heavy.
that.
That's heavy duty.
Yeah.
Very, very heavy
Yeah.
duty. I will just quickly. I will not get it. I've got a whole heap. I keep some M&M memorabilia. I even have a life-size one that's almost as tall as what we are. That he's my security guard in my study. He just guards paper. So I'll try and bring him up and put him on camera one night. But yes, I have a huge, almost life-size M&M. And I won't discuss how I got it from, but it comes from retail. Very, very lucky to get it from a rep many years ago. And he's, anyway, he's huge. But I have a lot of the small ones in the cupboard. So I do have a fascination with the Nascar liveries. But going back to what you just said about particular things hanging around, not necessarily as memorabilia in people's garages or street signs that they steal from in regional dragway strips. Hog's Breath usually used to have a 888 race car splitter up on their walls as well, though, too, in their restaurants, if you remember, as well, too. And they were actually proper 888 or Hog's Breath front sections of the cars that had some sort of damage, been repaired up to a certain extent, but no longer used to race with anymore, and they put them in the restaurant. So there you go. Thanks, Mag Mark. We have a Dale Earnhardt Goodwrench Black, not the Daniel Ricciardo one, but the Goodwrench Black one.
Yeah, I mean, could
call.
you get that smile of Dan Ricciardo's when he was driving that Wrangler car on the weekend? I mean, as he said, he got a text message from Max Verstappen, said that he said we can see you from miles away. He said just the smile, he said, is radiating out of that car. So he was absolutely, and he gave it plenty too. He got it nice and sideways, and he had an awful lot of fun. So good luck to Dan Ricciardo. Here we go. This is Doc's bringing in his product placement now.
Yeah.
There's the.
I have one bit of memorabilia. It's the green bollard, which was used to be on the inside of Turn 1 for the Melbourne AGP. When about 3 laps from the end, Heinz Harold Frentzen, his front rotor exploded, and he went skidding out into the trap, taking out the bollard, and it virtually landed in our laps almost.
The bollard or the brake rotor?
The bollard, yeah, and the car,
the
brake rotor.
It would have been very, very hot.
It happened right in front of me.
Well, the car, I'm standing at the back of the trap in Turn 1, and I'm going, oh, he'll stop. Oh, bloody hell. he didn't end up all that far away from me.
Well, he did stop, but he just stopped a lot closer to you than what you thought.
Than I expected, yeah, that's right.
Yeah. There you go. So there you go. I'll just quickly grab one of the ones out of the cupboard here. That's what we'll all be doing in the next few hours at some stage, cleaning our teeth and going to sleep with our
I think that so some of us will be going to sleep. Some of us will be staying up until at least 1 o'clock to watch the Sri Lanka versus Australia World Cup match.
Stop teasing us, Brett. No more teasing. We'd like to be watching
it's an early
that too.
night tonight.
No office hours tonight.
No, we
Lack
go
of
and
interest?
get a jab in the arm tomorrow. So
Good stuff. Well
we're gonna
done,
be up
Stuart.
at a decent time.
Well done, Stuart. Give yourself 24 hours. You'll have a sore arm like the rest of us have.
No change from normal.
Exactly. There you go.
Okay, everybody. Well, once again to our mate Chris Ritchie, and to his wife to Faye and all the rest of them over there. I hope that I hope that the vaccine is will eventually help you get over this damn thing. He's had a bad run of health over the past year or so, and this is just the latest sort of blow that Chris has got. And we thought that it was. We thought that it was sort of going away. He got over the worst of it, and it was this time he'd be good. But he contacted us just before the show and said, no, I'm not. I'm too crook, guys. Not gonna make it this week." So, Chris, as I said, if you're watching, I think basically he's probably in bed right now. But if you're catching up with us on the YouTube channel a little bit later on, we're all thinking about you, and hopefully we'll see you here next week on the program as well. So, thank you everybody for joining us once again. Now, remember, next week on the program in Pit Lane, Thursday night, Channel 31, Melbourne and Geelong. And coming up, Doc and myself and young Jason from the show, we're heading out to Sandown not this weekend, but next weekend for the historic Sandown, and we'll be waving the cameras around there for a couple of episodes of the show, and that will take us through to the end of this season of In Pit Lane before we go on a much.
Do we know what we're doing? Do we remember how to do all this, Brett? I've forgotten. What are we doing again? I've got no idea. It's been that long. Yeah.
Well, I'm sure it's like riding a bike. I believe we will find that. So everybody, your Mad Cow. Oh, that's a good one. Mad Cow Mark's got an NHRA Budweiser advertising banner from the Summer Nationals. Yeah, that's.
I've still got the side of a sprint car ring that reads Formula Speedway, so I'm there.
That's right. You got that as well. That was a show that Stuart was involved with back in the day.
Thanks for the VR. We'll pass on your good wishes and get well soon.
Yes, thanks, Ron. Well, and I'll be in touch. I had a good talk with Virtual R the other day, and he's helping us out with some stuff that will hopefully more about that sort of in the weeks and months to come. As I said, we're going to take a break in the next couple of weeks. Been going on in terms of the show. We've been basically going for more than 2 years now without a real break. So sort of said to 31 when they said, "Well, are you coming back for the Christmas season?" I thought, no, really desperately need a break for a lot of reasons. But hopefully, fingers crossed, hopefully we'll get things organised. This thing will all calm down a bit and we'll be able to get back in the studio and come back bigger and better than ever for our 26th year in the studios at RMI TV in March 2022. But in the meantime, Full Course Yellow will continue, for as long as we decide that we want to keep doing it and you keep joining us. So do that next week, 9:30 straight after In Pit Lane. But from all of us here on Full Course Yellow, until we see you again next week, thanks for joining us and bye everybody.
Have a great week.
Bye-bye.
Good night.